Hi everybody, Father Scott Vanderveer here today with a reflection on the fifth commandment, thou shalt not kill. We almost never encounter someone who is guilty of the sin of murder. There's not often opportunities to encounter people who have experienced that unless we are working in the correction system, have some kind of jail ministry or prison career. Most of the time, people who have killed are kept safely away from the public. But that is not always the case with people who, maybe like you and me, have a list of people we wish were not in our lives or were not maybe in the world. All of us have experienced that feeling of being annoyed at mosquitoes and thinking, why did God make these things anyway, these pesky, miserable little insects? If we're honest with ourselves, we often feel that way about someone in our workplace, someone who married into our family. We often feel that way about a neighbor or someone we come across from time to time. It can be very easy to have those feelings about a person that we only experience for a brief moment. Someone we pass in traffic, for example. The incidents of road rage in our world have been exponentially greater over the past decade or so. We used to hear about people getting stressed in traffic or frustrated. We all know that some of us have spouses or friends that make us a little bit anxious in the car because their anger comes out when driving. But we're seeing more and more that some people in a moment of road rage lose control and actually cause harm or even kill the people that they're angry at in traffic. I think a good way for us to understand the fifth commandment is to figure out what parts of our brain and maybe our personality are kind of a bad neighborhood. Does that make sense? A bad neighborhood inside of us? When we're driving through a neighborhood that feels dangerous, that feels like there's crime lurking many places, if we see drug dealing going on, or if we see people acting aggressively, and we're driving through a place like that, it's natural to lock your car doors, to say, I don't feel comfortable giving anyone in this neighborhood access to me. I don't feel safe. Who would not be safe in the neighborhood of our thoughts? Is there anyone that would not be safe around you if thoughts could kill? I think that that's an interesting way for us to consider this commandment, because there's a good chance that you have never murdered someone and that you never will. Some of us have experienced coming close to death through experiences in war. That's not something that I or many people in my generation have ever experienced, but there are many in my generation and in others who have. And so that's a burden that some of us must bear. But for a lot of us, actually experiencing murder at our hands, actually ending someone else's life through our decision, is not something that we'll ever necessarily experience. But for a lot of us, if we had a weapon at hand during our worst moments of anger or overwhelm, at our most fearful times, at our most hurt times, we could be capable of causing a lot of damage. There are a number of people in jail right now, some of them even in our local area, who were prosecuted not for ever intending to murder somebody, but for allowing fear to take the wheel when there was a suspicious vehicle near their home, and they shot at that vehicle and they killed an innocent person. There are people who have made bad choices with drinking or other substances and then have driven a motor vehicle and never intended to harm anyone else, but who did just that. There are people who, in anger or in a moment of lacking their self-possession, have reached for a gun and shot and or killed people that they love. Those stories are not that far from us. So how many of us could admit that maybe the reason that we are not in jail is because we don't have a weapon close by, or because we have safeties in place to keep us away from things that would cause harm during moments of lacking control? It's not a very pleasant way to look at ourselves, is it? It's not comfortable to say, oh my goodness, I am capable of harming someone. And even if I would never do it, my brain, my spirit sometimes is a bad neighborhood. There are certain people who are not safe in my thoughts. The great Roman philosopher Terence once said, I am a human being. Nothing human is alien to me. That's true for all of us. Anything that a human being could do somewhere, we are capable of doing. Anything we read about in the news could happen in our lives or in the lives of our family members. That's part of the humility of recognizing what it means to be immortal, subject to the exact same troubles and passions and sins and weaknesses of all other mortals. I am a human person. Anything another human being could do, I could do. It takes humility to admit that, and that humility is something that we are called to cultivate in our lives. May this reflection on the commandments help you and me to become more the people God wants us to be. And may everyone be safe in the neighborhood of our heart and mind and soul. God bless you all.